He calls on us not to chase after the light, but to become the fire ourselves. The world around us often teaches us to seek external sources of truth, happiness, and success. We are taught to chase the light of approval, the light of societal norms, the light of worldly achievements. We believe that by pursuing these external sources, we will find fulfillment, clarity, and purpose. But Nietzsche challenges this notion. He asks, why follow someone else's light when you can become the fire yourself? To become the fire is to tap into your own internal power, to ignite the passion within, to burn with a force that creates, transforms, and overcomes. It is not about seeking external validation or truth, but about generating your own light from within. It is about being a source of strength and transformation rather than a passive recipient of someone else's radiance. Nietzsche's famous phrase, "Become who you are," resonates deeply with this idea. To become the fire is to fully embrace your true self without the need for external confirmation. It is to live authentically, to be the active creator of your own destiny, and to stop running after fleeting lights that offer only temporary satisfaction. In a world full of distractions, it is easy to lose sight of our own internal flame. We chase after the lights of fame, wealth, approval, and recognition. But these lights, though bright for a time, are not sustainable. They can only illuminate the surface, never reaching the depths of our being. The fire that Nietzsche speaks of is the fire of the soul, an inner blaze that never burns out, a force that burns away falsehoods, doubt, and the limitations imposed upon us by society. This fire is the embodiment of will to power, a constant striving for self-overcoming and growth. To become the fire is to embrace your ability to create your own light, your own truth, your own meaning. It is to rise above the external world's expectations and to chart your own course, burning brightly as you forge your path. The call to become the fire is not an easy one. It demands courage, strength, and the willingness to burn away what no longer serves us. But in the end, it is through this fire that we find our truest expression and deepest joy. We are conditioned to chase the light, to seek illumination from sources outside of ourselves. Society tells us that success is found in fame, wealth, recognition. We are taught to admire those who shine brightly in the world, those who radiate in the light of external approval. And so, we run after these lights, believing they will guide us to truth and fulfillment. But Nietzsche challenges this. He urges us to question the very idea that external light has the power to fulfill us, that it can give us meaning, or that it defines our worth. He asks us to look beyond the surface, beyond the glimmering lights of the world, and realize that they are nothing but illusions. External light is always temporary. It is dependent on the approval of others, on the shifting tides of public opinion, on the transient nature of success. This light may shine brightly for a time, but it is fickle. It fades. It burns out. The light that we chase outside of ourselves is never constant. It is always subject to change, always dependent on circumstances beyond our control. And so, when we place our faith in it, we are bound to disappointment. We will always find ourselves running after something that can never fully satisfy us. Nietzsche warns that the pursuit of external light leads to a life of passivity, a life spent following someone else's path, living according to someone else's expectations, constantly seeking external validation. This pursuit robs us of our own inner strength, our own power. It keeps us dependent on external factors for our sense of self-worth. But the true light, the light that will never fade, comes from within. It is the fire that we must ignite in our own hearts. It is the light that we create when we choose to live authentically, when we choose to become the fire rather than chase it. The illusion of external light is seductive. It promises fulfillment, meaning, and purpose, but it is fleeting, shallow, and ultimately unfulfilling. True power, true illumination comes from within. It comes from becoming the fire, from embracing our own inner strength and creative will. When we stop chasing the light and start creating our own, we are free. We are no longer dependent on the shifting whims of the world. We are the fire, and in our fire, we find our true light. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy is the concept of the will to power a force, not about dominance over others, but about the mastery of oneself. This is the fire that burns within each of us, waiting to be ignited, ready to shape our own destiny. For Nietzsche, the will to power is the fundamental drive of human beings. It is the force that drives us to overcome obstacles, to challenge the status quo, and to become the highest version of ourselves. It is not merely a desire for external achievement, but an internal force that demands growth, transformation, and self-overcoming. When we embrace the will to power, we stop looking outside ourselves for the light, for the validation, for the answers. Instead, we become the creators of our own destiny. We ignite the fire within, and through this fire, we begin to shape the world around us. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. This famous Nietzschean quote speaks directly to the power of internal drive. It is not about seeking external approval, wealth, or recognition. It is about understanding our inner purpose, our why. When we understand our own purpose, we ignite the inner flame that fuels us through any difficulty, through any obstacle. The will to power is not about asserting control over others. It is about asserting control over ourselves. It is about becoming the force that shapes our lives, that burns away self-doubt, and that forges a path toward our own unique greatness. When we ignite our inner flame, we stop being passive observers in the world. We stop being swayed by external influences, by fleeting desires, by the ever-changing tides of society's expectations. Instead, we burn with our own power, and this power is unshakable. This is where true freedom lies. It is not found in following someone else's light, in chasing after external approval, but in embracing the power within, in becoming the fire that creates its own path, its own light, its own meaning. Nietzsche's will to power asks us to look inward, to face our weaknesses and fears, and to transform them into sources of strength. It asks us to confront the abyss of our own limitations and rise from it, to forge ourselves into beings who are not passive recipients of the world, but active creators of it. The fire of the will to power is not a destructive force, it is a creative force. It burns away what no longer serves us. It clears the path, and it illuminates the way forward. Through the fire of this will, we become the creators of our own destiny, and the world around us becomes the canvas on which we paint our lives. To become the fire is to undergo a radical transformation. It is not a passive process. It is an active, intense evolution of the self. The fire that Nietzsche speaks of is not merely an external force, it is an internal one, a force that burns away the unnecessary, the weak, and the false to reveal the true essence of who we are. Nietzsche teaches that we must become who we are. To do so, we must embrace the fire within us. We must be willing to undergo the trials of the soul, to burn with the intensity of our own will, and to emerge stronger, clearer, and more authentic than before. Become who you are. This is the challenge Nietzsche sets before us. It is not enough to merely exist, to follow the path set by others. We must actively create our own path, burning with the fire of our will, our desire, and our purpose. To become the fire, we must face our fears and limitations. We must confront the parts of ourselves that are afraid to burn, the parts that are comfortable in the shadows, the parts that cling to the safety of mediocrity. These parts of ourselves must be set alight so that we can burn through them, shedding the old skin, the false beliefs, the limiting self-conceptions. This process of transformation is not easy. It requires courage and strength, but it is through this fire that we become our most authentic selves. Just as a flame transforms everything it touches, so too does the fire of our will transform our lives, our relationships, and our understanding of the world. The fire does not burn without reason. It burns to create, to cleanse, to reshape. It is through the fire that we gain clarity, that we see the world not through the lens of fear and limitation, but through the lens of strength and possibility. The fire illuminates the path forward, making visible the potential that lies before us. Through the transformation of self, we learn to stop chasing the light. We stop looking outside for answers. Instead, we become the source of light, the fire that burns with purpose and meaning. We become the creators of our own destiny, the fire that ignites every step we take. The fire within is not an external force. It is your essence, your will to power, your capacity to create and destroy, to become and unbecome. It is the process of constant self-overcoming, of breaking through the boundaries that limit us, and of shaping the world according to our will. In a world that constantly tells us who we should be, what we should value, and how we should live, Nietzsche calls us to reject the light of others. He challenges us to stop living according to the expectations of society, of culture, and of the people around us. The light of others may shine brightly, but it is not our light. He who follows another does not become his own light. To chase the light of others is to deny ourselves the chance to create our own path. It is to live in the shadows of someone else's truth, someone else's purpose. By following the light that has been set before us, we remain passive, subjugated to the will of others, unable to express our true selves. Nietzsche teaches us that we must not conform to the world's standards, but instead we must break free from them. We must learn to create our own light, to build our own path, and to walk with the fire of our own will leading the way. The light of others is temporary, a borrowed illumination that eventually fades. The light we seek should come from within, from the fire we kindle in our own soul. By rejecting the external standards imposed upon us, we give ourselves the freedom to define our own truth, our own values, and our own purpose. To reject the light of others is not to live in darkness, it is to become the light. It is to ignite the fire within, and to let that fire burn brightly, illuminating the path ahead. It is to stop seeking validation from others and to start validating ourselves. We no longer wait for the world to tell us what is true. We discover it within ourselves. Living according to external standards leaves us vulnerable. We are always at the mercy of those lights, always dependent on the approval of others, always uncertain of our own worth. But when we reject the light of others, we reclaim our power. We become the creators of our own meaning. This rejection is an act of liberation. It frees us from the chains of conformity, from the weight of societal expectations. By embracing our own light, we step into our true power and we become the fire that lights our way. We no longer need to chase the light, we are the light. In the process, we learn to trust ourselves, to find our own truth, and to live authentically. The fire within us will guide us, and through it, we discover a deeper, more profound joy, a joy that is not dependent on external validation, but on our own inner strength. To become the fire is not a singular event, it is a constant process, a journey that has no endpoint, only a continuous unfolding. The fire that Nietzsche speaks of is not something static. It is not a light that we turn on and leave to burn without effort. It is an active, dynamic force that must be stoked and nurtured every day. The fire within us is the will to power the inner force that drives us to create, to overcome, and to transform. It is a flame that burns eternally, but it requires attention. It must not be ignored, for if left unkempt, it can fade. The fire within us can be easily extinguished by the cold winds of doubt, fear, and complacency. But it is not only through struggle that the fire is kept alive. The fire of becoming is not about constantly fighting against the world or others. It is about fighting within, fighting the parts of ourselves that seek to settle, that try to remain comfortable, that are afraid of transformation. The fire within us burns brightest when we refuse to be content with what we have, when we are always striving for more, for something greater than what we are today. It is the continual striving to evolve, to transcend our limitations, and to grow beyond what we thought was possible. Nietzsche's idea of becoming is not about reaching a final destination. It is about the journey itself. It is the realization that we are always in the process of becoming, always changing, always creating. The moment we stop becoming is the moment we stop living. To become the fire is to accept that life is a journey of perpetual transformation, where each experience, each challenge, and each triumph adds fuel to the fire that burns within us. The fire of becoming requires courage, because it asks us to leave behind the comfort of the known. It demands that we step into the unknown, into the dark, and into the unfamiliar. But it is only through this courage that we are able to transform. It is only by pushing ourselves past our fears, past our limitations, that we truly begin to feel the power of the fire within us. "What does not kill me makes me stronger," Nietzsche famously wrote, and in this statement, he encapsulates the essence of becoming the fire. It is not through avoiding hardship, but through embracing it, that we grow. Every struggle is an opportunity to add more fuel to the fire, to burn away what no longer serves us, and to emerge from the experience stronger and more refined. The fire within us is not just a force of destruction, it is also a force of creation. It is through the fire of our will that we are able to shape our lives, to create new possibilities, to transform the world around us. The fire is not just about burning through obstacles, it is about igniting new opportunities, new dreams, new ideas. When we embrace the fire, we step into our creative power, and the world becomes our canvas, waiting for us to paint it with our own unique expression. The journey of becoming the fire is not without its challenges. There will be moments of doubt, moments of darkness, and moments when the fire seems to burn low. But these moments are not to be feared, they are part of the process. They are the times when the fire must be stoked, when we must gather the fuel of our determination, our resilience, and our will to continue. It is in these moments that the fire is tested, and it is in these moments that we grow the most. Becoming the fire is a commitment. It is a commitment to never stop growing, to never stop striving, to never stop transforming. It is a commitment to live authentically, to burn brightly with the passion of our own will, and to embrace the constant journey of becoming who we are meant to be. To become the fire, one must face the abyss. Nietzsche did not shy away from acknowledging the depths of human suffering, the darkness within the soul, and the struggles that come with true self-overcoming. In fact, he saw these moments of darkness as necessary. They are not obstacles to be avoided, but parts of the journey that lead to the full realization of our inner strength. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. This famous Nietzschean statement reveals an important truth. The more we confront our deepest fears, our darkest aspects, the more we are in danger of becoming consumed by them. But it is not in avoiding the abyss that we find our strength, it is in facing it directly. The abyss does not destroy us unless we choose to let it. When we stare into it, we have a choice: to let it swallow us whole, or to use it as fuel for our own transformation. The abyss is a metaphor for the challenges we face, the doubts that haunt us, the fears that keep us small, the painful memories and experiences that threaten to hold us back. It is the part of ourselves that we fear, the part of ourselves that we are ashamed of, the part of ourselves that seems too dark to confront. But Nietzsche teaches us that this darkness is not our enemy, is a part of who we are. It is through the abyss that we can discover our deepest power. When we refuse to confront the abyss, we remain passive. We allow the darkness to control us from the shadows. We become slaves to our fears, to the lies we tell ourselves, and to the limitations we place upon our potential. But when we face the abyss head-on, we become free. We strip away the illusions that bind us and see ourselves for who we truly are. The process of confronting the abyss is not easy. It requires immense courage and strength. We must be willing to look at ourselves without flinching, to examine our deepest flaws and fears, to acknowledge the darkness within us without judgment. Only then can we burn away the parts of ourselves that no longer serve us. Only then can we begin to truly become the fire. But it is not enough simply to face the abyss, we must embrace it. This is where Nietzsche's philosophy of will to power comes into play. The abyss is not something to conquer or defeat, it is something to embrace. It is the fertile soil in which our fire can grow. It is the ground where the seeds of transformation are planted. By embracing the abyss, we embrace our own power. We understand that our greatest strength comes not from avoiding suffering, but from learning to navigate it, to rise above it, and to use it as a source of creation. We burn with the fire of our own will, and in this fire, we discover who we truly are. To become the fire is to face our own darkness, to see the monsters within ourselves and not be afraid of them. It is to acknowledge the parts of ourselves that we have long denied, to accept them as part of our journey, and to use them as fuel for our own growth. The abyss becomes not a place of fear, but a space of empowerment, where we are free to create, to destroy, and to become all that we are meant to be. When we embrace our own power, we stop being victims of the world. We stop chasing external lights. We become the creators of our own destiny, the fire that burns with the intensity of our will. There is a profound joy that comes from the fire we create within ourselves. Nietzsche's philosophy does not simply urge us to become the fire for the sake of power or destruction. It urges us to embrace this fire as the source of our deepest joy. This is not the joy of fleeting pleasure, nor the joy that comes from external validation or success. It is the joy that arises from living authentically, from creating our own meaning, from burning brightly with the intensity of our own will. When we create our own light, when we ignite the fire within us, we begin to experience a joy that is unlike anything the world can offer. It is the joy of being who we are meant to be, the joy of embracing our full potential, the joy of seeing the world through the lens of our own creation. This joy is not external, it is not dependent on circumstances or achievements. It is an inner light, a light that shines from within, illuminating the path forward. Nietzsche famously said, "Joy is the will to power." the fire that burns in us. And it is through this fire that we overcome everything that is weak, everything that is false, everything that holds us back. This joy is not passive. It is not the kind of joy that comes from comfort or ease. It is the joy of overcoming, of creating, of transforming. The joy of fire is the joy of self-creation. It is the joy that arises when we stop following the path laid out for us by others and instead blaze our own trail. When we live with this fire, we become the light we once sought. We stop chasing after external sources of illumination, and we become the source ourselves. We stop waiting for someone else to show us the way, and we begin to walk our own path, burning brightly as we go. The fire is not just a force of destruction, it is a force of creation. It is the force that drives us to build, to create, to manifest our visions in the world. It is the force that compels us to create our own reality, to live with intention, to live in alignment with our highest purpose. In this fire, we find not only strength but joy. It is the joy that comes from knowing that we are the creators of our own lives. The joy that comes from knowing that we are not passive spectators in the world, but active participants in shaping our destiny. True joy is not found in external accomplishments or possessions. It is found in the fire that burns within us, the fire that drives us to live authentically, to express ourselves fully, to create meaning in a world that is often chaotic and uncertain. The joy of fire is not a fleeting emotion. It is a constant presence, a radiant light that continues to burn, even in the darkest of times. It is the joy that comes from knowing that we are in control of our own fate, that we have the power to shape our lives, and that we are free to become the person we were always meant to be. In this fire, we find liberation. We find the freedom to be ourselves, to embrace our flaws, our contradictions, our complexities. And it is through this freedom that we experience the truest form of joy, the joy of becoming who we are, the joy of living as our most authentic selves, the joy of knowing that we are the creators of our own light. As we reach the final step of this journey, we come to the realization that the fire we have created within ourselves is not meant to burn in isolation. It is not meant to be confined to the self. The fire, once ignited, is a force that radiates outward, illuminating the world around us. Nietzsche's vision of the fire is not just about self-mastery. It is about becoming the light that guides others, the light that transforms the world. To become the fire is to become the light you seek. It is to stop searching for validation, for external sources of wisdom, for someone to show you the way. Instead, you become the beacon, the one who leads, who inspires, who illuminates the darkness of the world with the light of your own inner strength. When we begin to live authentically, when we embrace our own power, we become the embodiment of the fire. We radiate that fire, not only to enrich our own lives, but to inspire those around us, to ignite their flames as well. The light we seek is not something external, it is within us. And when we acknowledge this, we realize that we can be the source of our own transformation and the transformation of others. The fire within is eternal. It does not fade with time. It does not depend on the world's approval or external conditions. The light of the soul is a constant presence, always shining, always creating, always guiding. It is the eternal flame that burns brightly, regardless of the darkness that surrounds it. And it is in this eternal flame that we find our true purpose to illuminate the path not just for ourselves, but for others as well. Nietzsche challenges us to not just become the fire, but to be the light that others seek. It is not enough to burn brightly for ourselves. We must light the way for others to follow. In becoming the fire, we become the example, the source of inspiration, the light that shows others that they too can burn with their own inner flame. The most perfumed flower is the one that is planted in the fire. Nietzsche believed that only through the fire of experience, through the trials and tribulations of life, can we discover the true depth of our potential. Only through facing the abyss, through embracing the darkness, can we rise as the light. When we become the eternal flame, we do not seek external sources of light or guidance. We become the creators of our own truth, the source of our own meaning, and in doing so, we inspire others to do the same. We create a world where each individual is free to ignite their own fire, to become their own light, and to transform the world around them. To be the light you seek is to embrace your own power, to accept your role as the creator of your own destiny, and to live as the fire that burns with purpose, with passion, and with clarity. The eternal flame is within you, waiting to be kindled, waiting to burn brightly and illuminate the world.